Hello everyone, welcome back to Mason Zero MTG. My name is Mason, and today we're going to be looking through my cube, or at least the white cards in it. So last week I put up a video about my cube in the current mode that it was in. It was at 540 cards, and I wanted to put it down to 360. I wanted to get rid of some of the sort of weirder themes and tribal synergies and slower things, and sort of streamline it into a more powerful cube, more focused on archetypes rather than specific synergies. Essentially, what it was before is that it was almost like a custom Magic set, which included cards that maybe weren't as powerful. So I have made those changes thanks to suggestions from a couple of you guys, in particular from my friend John, and from Milo the Gathering, as well as a couple other people. So I present to you the white cards. So, first of all, we have Thraben Inspector. Of course, 1 white for a 1/2, human soldier. When it enters the battlefield, investigate. Just a lot of value for a 1-drop, card draw in white. Toolcraft Exemplar, 1 white for a 1/1. At the beginning of combat, on your turn, if you control an artifact, Toolcraft Exemplar gets +2/+1 until end of turn. If you control 3 or more artifacts, it also gains first strike until end of turn. There are a few artifacts in the cube, but I think, if you manage to get some, Toolcraft Exemplar can be great. Turn 1 Toolcraft Exemplar, turn 2 Thraben Inspector. Suddenly you have a 3/2 attacking with the clue. I think that's great. Soul Warden, 1/1 for 1. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield, you gain 1 life. I think this card is great. There's not really much of a life gain deck anymore in here, but I think this is just a good card in general. I think it can help stabilize. Great with tokens. We have Kithion, Hero of Akros, 1 white for a 2/1. At the end of combat, if you attacked with him and 2 other creatures, then you transform him. You can pay 3 to give him indestructible, and he transforms into a planeswalker with 3 loyalty. And you can +2 to have a creature an opponent controls attack him on that controller's next turn. You can +1, target creature gains indestructible until next turn, and you untap it. And you can pay 0 to make him a 4/4 creature. So a great early aggro card that can become more relevant in the late game by being a planeswalker. Mardu Woe Reaper, 1 mana for a 2/1 human warrior. When it enters the battlefield or another warrior enters the battlefield under your control, you may exile a target creature from a graveyard. If you do, you gain 1 life. I used to have some warrior synergies in this cube, not so much anymore. There are a few that are incidentally warriors, but I think this card is great as a 1 mana 2/1 that also has a little bit of graveyard hate and a little bit of life gain. Next we have Mother of Runes, 1 mana for a 1/1. Tap, target creature you control gains protection from the color of your choice until end of turn. This is just a good card to protect your higher cost things. In the meantime, it's just a 1-drop, which is great. Soldier of the Pantheon is another 1 mana 2/1. Protection from multicolored. Whenever an opponent casts a multicolored spell, you gain 1 life. I do have a fair amount of multicolored cards in the cube. I did cut a lot of them out, but I think there still are a decent amount that make this good beyond just being a 2/1 for 1. Selfless Spirit, going into the 2-drops. It's 2 mana for a 2/1 flying. Sacrifice it. Creatures you control gain indestructible until end of turn. Did great in Standard. I think that it is popular in cubes as well. Great when you have a board full of tokens and your opponent tries to go for a board wipe. This really discourages them from that. Henweir Militia Captain, 2 mana for a 2/2. At the beginning of your upkeep, if you control 4 or more creatures, transform it. And then it becomes Westvale Cult Leader, whose power and toughness are each equal to the number of creatures you control. And at the beginning of your end step, you make a 1/1 token. So great card for tokens decks, helps you go wide, and it rewards you for going wide. Another thing that's relevant in the early game and continues to be relevant in the late game. Hidden Dragon Slayer, 2 mana for a 2/1 human warrior with lifelink and Megamorph for 3. When it's turned face up, you can destroy a creature with power 4 or greater an opponent controls. So it's removal spell for big creatures. It has lifelink, and you can get it onto the battlefield and transform it in instant speed. Knight of the White Orchid, 2 white for a 2/2 human knight with first strike. When it enters the battlefield, if an opponent controls more lands than you may search your library for a plains, put it onto the battlefield, then shuffle your library. This is one of those rare white ramp cards, and as a 2/2 first strike, it's got pretty decent stats as well. I think this is a great card for white. Glory-Bound Initiate, 2 mana for a 3/1 human warrior. You may exert it as it attacks. When you do, it gets +1/+3 and gains lifelink until end of turn. Exert is a great mechanic on certain cards. I think this is one of the best ones for an aggressive white cube. So I really love this card. Seeker of the Way, 2 mana 2/2 human warrior with prowess. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, Seeker of the Way gains lifelink until end of turn. So very good with spells. Both blue and red have quite a few spells in my cube. So this pairs well with either of them. Also decent with white, which has a few. Nyxfleece Ram, 2 mana for an 0/5 enchantment creature sheep. At the beginning of your upkeep, you gain 1 life. This is just a great card to stem some early bleeding. If you're in a mirror against another aggro deck, this can help mitigate some of that damage. Great against things like burn and stuff. Mirror Entity, 2 and a white for a 1/1 shapeshifter with changeling. Pay X, creatures you control become XX and gain all creature types until end of turn. I did get rid of any tribal synergies that were going on, so this card is slightly less good because it doesn't turn all of your creatures into all types, but still paying X to give everything XX I think is great, especially if you're going wide with tokens and small creatures. So still a good card. Flicker Wisp, 3 mana for a 3/1 elemental with flying. When Flicker Wisp enters the battlefield, exile another target permanent. Return that card to the battlefield under its owner's control at the beginning of the next end step. Flicker effects are always good for getting rid of a blocker or for getting another ETB effect. Just lots of value. Mentor of the Meek, 2 and a white for a 2/2 human soldier. Whenever another creature with power 2 or less enters the battlefield under your control, you may pay 1. If you do, draw a card. This is an essential card in any tokens or small creatures deck. I think it fits right into the white of my cube. Silverblade Paladin, 3 mana 2/2 human knight with soul bond. As long as it's paired with another creature, both creatures have double strike. This is also just an essential white card. You get something else decently sized, you have two double strikers. It's great. Vryn Wingmare, 2 and a white for a 2/1 Pegasus with flying. Non-creature spells cost 1 more to cast. This is just a great sideboard card, or even mainboard card if you're running all creatures. Great against spells decks. I think that it pairs well with other creatures just because you can make a really creature-heavy deck and then make control worse against you. Archetype of Courage, 3 mana for a 2/2 enchantment creature human soldier. Creatures you control have first strike. Creatures your opponents control lose first strike and can't have or gain first strike. Again, a great aggressive card. Goes well with all your creatures and shuts down opponents, potentially if you're in a mirror. Banisher Priest, 3 mana for a 2/2 human cleric. When Banisher Priest enters the battlefield, exile target creature and opponent controls until Banisher Priest leaves the battlefield. Just a good exile effect. Really can't complain about this card. For 3 mana, you get a 2/2 body and the ability to remove your opponent's biggest creature for a while. Thalia, Heretic Cathar, another essential card. 3 mana for a 3/2 human soldier with first strike. Creatures and non-basic lands your opponents control enter the battlefield tapped. She just slows down your opponent's deck no matter what they're doing, There's plenty of non-basics running around, plenty of creatures. This really helps your aggro deck go to the next level. Ranger of Eos, 4 mana for a 3/2. When it enters the battlefield, you may search your library for up to 2 creature cards with converted mana cost 1 or less, reveal them, and put them into your hand. There's plenty of 1-drops around. This is a great 4-drop for getting a little extra value a few turns into the game. If you've emptied your hand onto the board, this guy can help fill it up with some decent cards, continue that aggro strategy. Oketra the True, 4 mana for a 3/6, legendary creature, god, double strike, indestructible. Oketra the True can't attack or block unless you control at least 3 other creatures. Pay 4 to create a 1/1 white warrior token with vigilance. That downside is not a downside if you drafted your deck well and are doing okay. Making creatures and tokens and stuff shouldn't be a problem. You should definitely have at least 3 other creatures when you cast Oketra if you're doing things well. So this is just a big, giant 3/6 double strike indestructible that's going to win you games. Restoration Angel, 4 mana for a 3/4 creature angel with flash and flying. When it enters the battlefield, you may exile target non-angel creature you control, then return that card to the battlefield under your control. This, like Flicker Wisp, is just another flicker card. This one does it instantaneously and only to your card, but still very useful for doubling up on enter the battlefield effects and triggers. You can really get a lot of value out of a card like this, and it's got a great body after that. Wingmate Rock, 5 mana for a 3/4 creature bird with flying. When it enters the battlefield, if you attacked with a creature this turn, you also get a 3/4 white bird token with flying, and whenever it attacks, you gain 1 life for each attacking creature. So, great 5-drop for white. It has a lot of value. It can potentially come with a lot of extra power, essentially doubling it, because you get another 3/4. And then when you go to combat, you get some extra life. Angel of Sanctions, 3 and 2 white for a 3/4 angel with flying. When it enters the battlefield, you may exile target non-land permanent an opponent controls until Angel of Sanctions leaves the battlefield. And it has Embalm for 6 mana. So it's kind of like the Banisher Priest, except a bigger body, and it has flying, and you can do it twice after it dies, which is great. Archangel Avacyn, 5 mana for a 4/4 legendary creature angel, flash, fly, and vigilance. When it enters the battlefield, creatures you control gain indestructible until end of turn. When a non-angel creature you control dies, transform Archangel Avacyn at the beginning of the next upkeep, and she transforms into Avacyn the Purifier, a 6/5 flying. When this creature transforms into Avacyn the Purifier, it deals 3 damage to each other creature and each opponent. So fun, high drop for white. It kind of protects your things the turn it comes in. It can protect from board wipe out of nowhere. And then it can deal some extra damage on the flip side. Sunscorch Regent, 3 and 2 white for a 4/3 dragon with flying. Whenever an opponent casts a spell, put a +1/+1 counter on Sunscorch Regent and you gain 1 life. This card is just pure value. It's difficult to remove with damage-based spells because it just gets bigger. While your opponent does stuff and digs for answers, your guy gets bigger and you gain more life. And in the meantime, you're hitting them in the air. Karmic Guide, 5 mana for a 2/2 Angel Spirit, flying, protection from black, Echo for 5 mana. When it enters the battlefield, return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. An extremely powerful effect. Returning something to the battlefield, you can get back something like Grizzlebrand or whatever. There's a lot of great targets for it in other colors as well. So just a very valuable card to have in your deck at a high mana cost. Sun Titan, 6 mana for a 6/6 creature giant with vigilance. When it enters the battlefield or attacks, you may return target permanent card with converted mana cost 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. It's huge cards like this that rebuild your board state by getting stuff back from the graveyard. If you're in white, a lot of your cards are going to be 3 mana or less. So, you're really going to be building back up your army with this guy. and when you cast him, you're just going to start winning and swinging the game in your favor. Now we have our Planeswalkers. We still have 2 in each color. Our first one is Ajani, Caller of the Pride. 3 mana for a 4 loyalty Planeswalker. +1, put a +1/+1 counter on up to 1 target creature. -3, target creature gains flying and double strike until end of turn. -8, put X 2/2 white cat creature tokens onto the battlefield where X is your life total. So, a great card, especially if you have one of the higher drop white creatures that you can focus on, since Ajani mostly focuses on buffing up just 1 creature, but still quite good. Then we have Elspeth, Sun's Champion, 6 mana for a 4 loyalty Planeswalker. +1, put 3/1/1 white soldier creature tokens onto the battlefield. -3, destroy all creatures with power 4 or greater. -7, you get an emblem with creatures you control get +2/+2 and have flying. A great card for going wide and making tokens. Obviously, the +1 makes a ton of tokens right out of the gate. Provides a lot of protection for Elspeth. And if you absolutely need to, you can board wipe everything big and keep all of your small guys. On to the instants. We first have Secure the Wastes, X and a white. Put X 1/1 white warrior creature tokens onto the battlefield. Just great and scales with the game. It's good any point when you draw it. Swords to Plowshares, 1 white, exile target creature. Its controller gains life equal to its power. A catch-all removal spell. Yes, your opponent gains life, but you get rid of the biggest threat that was going to kill you. So always worth it. Valorous Stance, 1 and a white. Choose 1. Target creature gains indestructible until end of turn, or destroy target creature with toughness 4 or greater. I love modal spells, including this one that only has 2 modes, but they're both very good modes. You can protect your creature or you can destroy a big threat. Dawn Charm, 1 and a white. Choose 1, prevent all combat damage that would be dealt this turn, or regenerate target creature, or counter target spell that targets you. Of all the Planar Chaos charms, this one's probably the best. I think it is the only one that I kept in out of all 5 of them, just because it is undeniably the most useful one. Fragmentize, 1 mana, and we're into the sorceries now, I should say. 1 mana, destroy target artifact or enchantment with converted mana cost 4 or less. That is what most of them are, so this is just a very cheap option for getting rid of artifacts and enchantments. Spectral Procession, 3 hybrid mana, either 3 white or 2 mana for each of those. Sorcery, put 3/1/1 white spirit creature tokens with flying onto the battlefield. So just another big token maker. Can only cost 3 mana if you pay all white into it, which is great, and you get 3/1/1 flyers. Terashi's Grasp, 3 mana, destroy target artifact or enchantment. You gain life equal to its converted mana cost. So sort of the opposite of Fragmentize in a way. This can hit anything and rewards you for killing something that has a higher converted mana cost, which there certainly are some of those that Fragmentize doesn't hit. Righteous Confluence, 5 mana, choose 3. You may choose the same mode more than once. Put a 2/2 white knight creature token with vigilance onto the battlefield, or exile target enchantment, or you gain 5 life. Again, modal spells are great. I enjoy all of these. If your opponent has some enchantments going on, you can get rid of those, since those are hard to get rid of. If you're behind on life, you can gain life. And if you need attackers or blockers, you can make the tokens. Austere Command, 6 mana, choose 2. Destroy all artifacts, destroy all enchantments, destroy all creatures with mana cost 3 or less, or destroy all creatures with mana cost 4 or greater. So you can kind of make your own board wipe here, killing artifacts, enchantments, or creatures, which is great because you can just do a complete board wipe if you want of all creatures, or if you kind of like Elspeth's minus, you can kill everything big but keep everything small. So really versatile removal spell for sure. Cartouche of Solidarity. Now we're into the enchantments. Enchant creature you control. When Cartouche of Solidarity enters the battlefield, create a 1/1 white warrior creature token with vigilance. Enchanted creature gets +1/+1 and has first strike. This aura is just kind of a lot of value for 1 mana. you get another creature, which is great, and then the creature you have gets a little buff, and first strike, which is a very relevant combat keyword. So you can make your small guy a little bit bigger and even get another guy. Blind Obedience, 1 and a white for an enchantment with Extort. Artifacts and creatures your opponents control enter the battlefield tapped. So again, kind of like Thalia Heretic Cathar, this is just a control card that slows down your opponent. Intangible Virtue, 2 mana, creature tokens you control get +1/+1 and have vigilance. Obviously for that token strategy, there are a fair amount of token makers. This just makes that deck so much better. Banishing Light, 3 mana. When Banishing Light enters the battlefield, exile a target non-land permanent an opponent controls until Banishing Light leaves the battlefield. Much like the Banisher Priest and stuff, this just gets rid of a creature for a while, but being an enchantment, it's a lot harder to remove. Ghostly Prison, 3 mana, creatures can't attack you unless their controller pays 2 for each creature he or she controls that's attacking you. It's just a control card. It slows your opponents down, stops them from attacking you. This is a card you want if you are trying to make it to the long game. It's really good against another aggro deck because if your opponent's going wide, then they really can't attack you for much damage. Oblivion Ring, 3 mana. When Oblivion Ring enters the battlefield, exile another target non-land permanent. When Oblivion Ring enters the battlefield, return the exiled card to the battlefield under its owner's control. This is functionally just another copy of Banishing Light. It does have the option that you can sacrifice it in between the triggers so that you can permanently exile a creature, but really it's just another removal spell for white in the way that white does best. And last but not least, we have Faith's Fetters, 4 mana for an aura, enchant permanent. When Faith's Fetters enters the battlefield, you gain 4 life. Enchanted permanent can't attack or block, and its activated abilities can't be activated unless they're mana abilities. So this is just a decent card. It can hit anything, including a creature, but it can also hit a planeswalker if you need, and it gains you some life too, so it's pretty good value, shuts down something, and stabilizes you a little bit. So those are all of my white cards in my new version of the cube. Please let me know what you thought of these cards in the comments below, and of course the Cube Tutor link is below. I'll be making more videos about each of the colors throughout the week. Pretty much thanks to your guys' suggestions, this is what has come out of it, and along with sort of my personal preferences of cards and other popular cubes out there, I'm happy with what has happened, and I'm excited to start testing it with people. For now, I am looking forward to that, and I think that it's a pretty fun cube that I put together. I'm looking forward to getting more powerful cards as time goes on, so definitely let me know if you see any gaps that I might be able to fill, any cards that might be really good. I would love to hear your opinions, so thank you for watching. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. If you haven't liked the video, please like it. And like I said, comment if you have any suggestions. Looking forward to talking. Anyways, I'll see you guys tomorrow for the blue cards. Have a great day.